Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar, Sustaining the Coastline, the Power of Mangrove Conservation. My name is Eloise, and I'm a volunteer at YKAN Konservasi Alam Nusantara, or YKAN, and I will be moderating this event today. I'm accompanied here today by 3 speakers from different backgrounds, and all the speakers will help inform you all about the importance of mangroves to our environment. There'll be a short quiz at the end of this discussion regarding everything we went over, and there'll be a prize for the winner. Before we learn more about why mangrove conservation is so crucial, we need to know a bit about the speakers today. Our first speaker today will be one of my fellow volunteers, Emily. Emily will talk about our experience here at YKAN, and more specifically, our visit to the mangrove site. Emily, please introduce yourself and why you chose to join this volunteer program at YKAN.
So, hi everyone, I'm extremely happy to be here to discuss the importance of mangrove conservation. My name is Audrey Teo, I'm 16 years old and I attend the Jakarta Intercultural School, also known as JIS. The basic volunteer program is offered to high school students to raise awareness on YKAN's programs and learn to communicate and promote conservation with the objective of enhancing public understanding on the importance of protecting the environment. I work with 5 other high school students and we have been working together these past 2 weeks on different projects that raise awareness for the environment. I joined the basic volunteer program as I am extremely passionate about environmental sustainability in Indonesia. I am involved in many different environmental clubs at JIS and have even spoken about the importance of sustainability in webinars. But in JIS, I focus a lot on advocacy and improving our school's environmental policies, and not a lot of direct action. So I joined this program to get some hands-on experience with direct service. I'm very thankful for the opportunities that YKAN has given me, being able to learn a lot of valuable knowledge about not only mangroves and different environmental issues, but event management and marketing.
Thank you, Emily. Our next speaker is Jemmy Chayadi. Jemmy has been one of the members of the YKAN Advisory Committee since 2021. Jemmy also comes from the corporate sector, and he is here to discuss his passion in joining YKAN and his interest in mangroves. Jemmy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Eloise. My name is Jemmy Chayadi. I'm currently working as the Director for Strategy and Sustainable Development at Jarum Foundations. Interestingly, my background was not sustainability. I was educated and also graduated as an engineer. I worked as an engineer for 5 years, and then eventually in the US, and then I moved to China, working for IKEA, leading the CSR implementations for Asia Pacific. But then I came back home and started to get more exposure in sustainability, work in forestry and palm oil sectors, leading sustainability areas. And well, my passion in sustainability has always been how corporate can do more basically in supporting the conservations. So and how we can help with our superpower in that sense, how corporate can help together to make the conservation efforts. So happy to be here and look forward.
Thank you for your introduction. Our last speaker today is Aji Anggoro, a scientist here at YKAN. He's here to talk more about the importance of mangroves in a scientific perspective. Aji, please tell us more about you, your work, and why you decided to be a scientist at YKAN. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Eloise, and everyone that having me here. My name is Aji Anggoro. I recently finished my PhD back in December. My background is actually about environmental DNA, but I am very passionate about biodiversity and the coastal ecosystem. So my role in YKAN is basically helping the policy team and the field team to generate data that is important to do mangrove conservation. So YKAN believe that every single conservation action should be based on data, and data needs to be collected with a rigorous research method, and that's why I'm here to support all those activities. And I think being a scientist in an NGOs, international NGOs or local NGOs at YKAN is put me in a really different perspective, you know. As a scientist alone, this will give me an access to learn about what happened in the field, generate data, and then making sure that the data can be used by a policy maker. That is something that I guess unique, that not everyone as a scientist have a opportunity to do so. And in YKAN especially, I am more involved in supporting a mangrove conservation, and where I generate data for like greenhouse gas emission, biodiversity, and many other topics, especially to support the success of a mangrove conservation in many other areas where YKAN is working right now. Thank you, Eloise.
Thank you. So as I said before, today we're here to discuss the importance of mangroves to our environment and ecosystem. And I'm sure you all can't wait to hear from our speakers. So let's begin with Aji. So Aji, can you please explain what a mangrove is and why they are important?
Mangrove ecosystem can be seen as a complicated, but at the same time as a simple ecosystem, you know? So like in the very simplistic way, mangrove ecosystem is a community of shrubs and trees that grow where salinity as impact of the ocean environment grow best. So it's a tree or shrub ecosystem that highly or is located in where they live in the highest tide and the lowest tide. They live between in those areas. And that is very simplistic way of understanding a mangrove ecosystem. But the mangrove ecosystem, so the second question is about why mangrove is important. Why mangrove is important, and there are so many different ways that I can explain this, but I think, you know, mangrove can provide a protection against coastal catastrophe, for example, and it provides a place for many biodiversity to live and nurture growth there. And for example, if we see mangrove as a place where many species, before they're actually going to the coral reef ecosystem, for example, they live and grow in mangrove ecosystem, and then when they are ready, they will go to the coral reef ecosystem. So in a sense, mangrove provide a protection for them before they're actually ready to go in the coral reef ecosystem, and that's one thing. And secondly, you know, the science or publication have shown that the area where the mangrove ecosystem grow massively, they can protect from the wind-related and coastal catastrophe. For example, in the 2004 in the Indian Ocean tsunami, many of the areas that are protected in mangrove has less impact against the tsunami compared to the areas that has no mangrove ecosystem. And then, yeah, and I think like those two are major roles of why we have mangrove and the importance of mangroves. We can discuss a bit about this later once you guys have questions or concern about mangroves. Thank you, Eloise.
Thank you. Another question that I have is, why are mangrove forests disappearing right now?
You know, there are three major causes. I think like primarily is the expansion of the aquaculture. That's number one. And secondly, the expansion of palm oil expansion. And then third is the illegal logging. But I think, there are other causes that impacting the disappearance of mangroves. But like, let's address number one. And I think many of YKAN or YKAN works here in Indonesia, it's trying to address and balance between the expansion of aquaculture and then making sure that the mangrove restoration is happening. I mean, we cannot solely blame aquaculture itself, because in the long run, we will need the aquaculture, because as the global population is increasing, people will still need a source natural protein. And then one way to ensuring that we are not depending too much on the capture of fisheries is making sure that the aquaculture industry thriving. And then, but one way to solve that is making sure that the aquaculture industry is done in the most sustainable way possible. So that's the three things. And then, but the illegal logging part is like, it's not, I mean, it's much more manageable to be addressed. But the aquaculture industry and the palm oil industry, it's where we need more efforts to address and balance between the sustainable way of doing conservation and doing the protein generation production. Thank you, Eloise.
So one last question for you at this moment. Why is it important to save the mangroves right now?
So, and I think like there are many ideas of why is it important to save it now, but I think we should have done it earlier, back in the days where we should have started now. But like global community have a huge concern of global emission right now. We're trying to push down the 2 degrees and then trying to achieve by limiting the overall global temperature by 2 degrees Celsius. And then one way to address that is making sure that the global emission is reduced. And one of strategy to address that is by making sure that the global 14.8 billions of mangrove that we have globally right now, doing their role of sequestering a global emission. Of course, this is just one way of addressing the global climate change, but we have realized now that the mangrove ecosystem is able to store 3 to 5 times more compared to other ecosystem, for example, terrestrial. And then we want to maximize that as an ecosystem that will be able to store carbon. And then we want to make sure that the carbon is stored in the longest time possible. And then we want to make sure that everyone is contributing to that effort. And that is why we need to do it now. Yeah.
Thank you for all your insightful answers, Pa. So now,
thank you, Eloise.
Pa Jemmy, why is it important for individuals or corporations to support the Mangrove Conservation Initiative?
Okay. Well, when we talk about why it is important, I remember the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon once made a remark. He said, "We are the first generations that can end poverty and the last that can end climate change." So why is it important? Number one is the scale of urgency, because our generations might be the last that can save the only world that we have now from the Armageddon of climate crisis. So the number one is the scale of urgency. The second thing is, I also see that Indonesia has a great opportunity to be the savior of this world. Because when we talk about climate change, there are only 3 countries in this world who can actually help this world from climate crisis: Brazil, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Indonesia. Why? Because the 3 countries are home of more than half of the world's tropical rainforest. So our forests definitely can help as the carbon sinks. But not only that, as Aji mentions, I mean, Indonesia has one of the largest mangrove forest area in the world, like with 3.4 million hectares. That's equals to 20% of the world's mangrove. That can store more than 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So therefore, Indonesia has that great opportunity to take the global leadership in helping reducing the global carbon emissions and saving our world from this climate crisis. So the urgency is there, the opportunity is there, and from us, from the private sector, as a good corporate citizens, we are here to take more active roles to support the country, to support Indonesia, to achieve these leading positions in tackling and mitigating the risks from the climate change.
Thank you. So the next question is to Emily. So Emily, why are you interested in mangrove conservation?
Yeah, thank you, Eloise. I am interested in mangrove conservation as mangroves are essential to mitigating climate change. As both Aji and Jemmy talked about, mangroves are highly efficient at capturing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They have the potential to store up 5 times more carbon than tropical forests, making them extremely important in the fight against climate change. I think mangroves are a lot more important than what people think and are an essential part of helping Jakarta decrease their carbon emissions. As we learned in our trip to the mangroves last week, mangroves act as a natural water filters, removing pollutants and excess nutrients from the water. This function enhances the overall water quality of coastal ecosystems, benefiting both marine life and nearby populations. There are many different other reasons why mangrove conservation interests me, but these two are essentially what stick out to me the most.
Okay, thank you. Our next question to you, Emily, is what was your experience like visiting the last mangroves in Jakarta?
Yeah, so as part of the basic YKAN program, we got to visit the last mangroves last week, and it was honestly such a great experience. As someone who is involved in pushing for environmental sustainability within my school, I always see that mangroves are what can help save us from climate change, but I never really get to see them in person. It was really interesting to see them in person and even be able to plant them. As in school, I'm not usually working on direct service. It was nice that during our volunteering period, YKAN let us directly visit a site and help the environment. Even though we all only planted one, since there are many volunteers, eventually all our grown mangroves will collectively help reduce the carbon emissions in Jakarta.
Thank you. Our next question is to Aji, and the question is, how is urbanization directly impacting the mangroves here in Jakarta?
Thank you for the question. So I think we expect that the rate of urbanization is increasing in the next couple of years. You know, even though we are much more connected than before, but I think like more and more people are happy to live in an urban setting, and I think one compromise of having more people in the coastal area is that we need to build an infrastructure for them, and then the mangrove ecosystem take the stall. You know, we need to build more infrastructure in the coastal ecosystem, and that is why I think that is one of the direct consequences to mangrove ecosystem of why as the impact of urbanization. And I think in the long run, you know, mangrove ecosystem is much more this ecosystem service that it provides. It is maximized when mangrove ecosystem are in a large proportion. And if we are building this or infrastructure, it will create more fragmented mangrove ecosystem. And even though they are still protecting and giving the ecosystem that it provides, but as it getting more fragmented, it will start losing its role as you know, the coastal protector, the biodiversity unit. So, and I think that is one of the direct impact on how urbanization impacting the mangrove ecosystem. Of course, there's still many other things that contribute to it, but I think, you know, much more fragmented mangrove ecosystem is something that we will see in the future, and then I think it will lessen the ecosystem service that it will provide for the human and community in general.
Okay, thank you. So this next question goes to Jemmy. And Jemmy, you also work with YKAN for Mangrove Conservation. So why do you think it is important to have collaboration in this initiative?
Okay, collaboration is definitely very important, and I every time when we talk about collaborations, I always like to use the analogy of Avengers. As we all know, like there are many Marvel superheroes, right? Like Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, and so on, and they all have their own superpower. And in their movie, they will go against their own enemies, right? But then there's only the time when they need to, when they go up against Thanos, is when they actually get together and assemble, Avengers assembles, right? So they must assemble and they basically join forces to defeat Thanos, as we all know. So same thing with climate crisis. Climate change is the Thanos of our generations. So therefore, like we cannot do this alone. So every stakeholders, the government, NGOs, scientists like Pak Aji, academics, private sectors, including everyone, we all need to assemble as the Avengers in sustainability, with different superpowers to basically tackle this climate crisis. So therefore, I totally believe that collaborations is very important in order to really tackle this climate change issue. So as an example of the collaborations that we do is we call so basically we have this so-called the Mangrove Ecosystem Restorations Alliance, or MERA, which is a multi-stakeholder collaborative effort to save mangroves in Indonesia. So it's a collaborations between YKAN and B.A.S.I Jakarta and private sectors like APP and Indofood, Chevron, and Jarum. So we all again combine forces with each of our superpowers to work together to find solutions for mangrove restorations in Indonesia. And as I think as what Emily mentions, you guys actually went to one of the sites, MERA sites that we are working on in the Tuaca Marga Satwa Muara Angke. So that's one of the examples. And of course, again, we would need to have more of that collaborative efforts elsewhere. And I think that's how we can find the right solutions, because obviously, like Thanos, like climate change, it's not really an easy problem, obviously. So therefore, we need to have the right solutions that will come from different stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is for Emily. And the question is, do you think it is important for us, the younger generation, to have a stronger understanding of these environmental issues?
So firstly, yes, it is extremely important for us, the younger generation, to have a stronger understanding of these environmental issues. There are so many reasons why the younger generation should have a strong understanding of the environmental issues occurring in the world. The main reason is because we are the stewards of the future. As the world continues to experience the consequences of climate change, habitat destruction, and resource depletion, we are the young individuals that actually hold the power to drive positive change. When informing the younger generation about environmental challenges and solutions, it will empower them to make informed decisions, adopt sustainable practices, and advocate for meaningful policy changes. A strong understanding of environmental issues fosters a sense of responsibility and empathy towards our planet, which will then inspire and bring a new generation of environmental leaders who can actively help with preserving the planet for themselves and generations to come.
Thank you, Emily. I completely agree. So now here's a question for all the speakers. So from your perspective, what can we do to help and support mangrove conservation? So let's start with Emily. What do you think the younger generation can do?
I believe that the younger generation plays an extremely important role in supporting mangrove conservation through various actions. Firstly, Raising awareness among peers and their communities about the importance of mangroves and their ecological significance can create a ripple effect of positive change. This also includes engaging in local cleanup initiatives, organizing tree planting events, and participating in mangrove restoration projects are always practical ways to help take direct action. Supporting and volunteering with local environmental organizations working on mangrove conservation, just like YKAN, is also something that the younger generation can do. But taking direct action isn't necessarily the only way to help. As I've said, raising awareness is just as important. At my school, I am the head of the environmental network, and we focused on getting rid of plastic waste at school by making sure our school does not serve any plastic utensils, cups, or plates anymore. This is just one example of how helping our environment does not necessarily mean direct action. Some other things the younger generation could do is adopting sustainable practices in daily life, such as reducing plastic usage, conserving water, etc. By informing the younger generation on mangrove conservation, the younger generation can leave a long-lasting impact on protecting these vital coastal habitats.
Thank you, Emily. So next is Jemmy. So what do you think, what actions do you think can be taken by individuals and corporations to protect the remaining mangrove forests?
Yeah, I think for corporations, definitely we need to take more active roles. For example, with Jarum Group as one of the biggest and leading business groups in Indonesia, we are taking more active roles to promote mangrove conservation. For example, with our MERA Alliance, Mangrove Ecosystem Restoration Alliance, to other private sectors, actively inviting more corporate partners to collaborate with NGOs like YKAN, who works in mangrove conservations. So that's number one. We do have that role that we can take more active role in that. Number two is I believe that seeing is believing. Yeah. Reason why is because many larger corporations in Indonesia are actually based in Java Island. So we might need more success stories of mangrove conservations in Java Island. So it's easier for those corporations to see the value, to see the benefit, to be able to actually see on the field what's going on with the mangrove restorations, how it's being done, and all that. So once more companies are able to see the facts and the values and the benefits of mangrove conservations, I believe that more companies will have the reason to believe and will be more willing to be involved. Lastly is definitely coming from science and technology, and of course from funding as well. We talk about Avengers and superpowers, and company usually has that access to most recent technology, to the funding that is needed to fund the conservations or efforts. For example, I know that there's a tech company. They're using drones, our technologies to plant mangroves that is faster, more efficient, and having higher yield or higher success rates. So those are some of the things that I think corporate can play more roles, active roles in the mangrove restorations.
Thank you. So lastly, Aji, what has YKAN done and is currently doing to preserve the mangrove ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So YKAN, especially in East Kalimantan, for example, we work collaboratively with the local stakeholders, the government, and then the shrimp pond owners, for example, to work to naturally restore the mangrove ecosystem there. Because the bottom line of what we are doing there right now is to make sure that the shrimp pond owners still have access to their livelihood, but at the same time, YKAN and then the local stakeholders able to increase the density of mangrove, because at the end, the shrimp pond owners and then local stakeholders will need the mangrove ecosystem to increase the resilience capacity for local people. And then secondly, we are introducing the ecosystem approach to aquaculture, where we support the idea of spatial planning to the local community and the local stakeholders, where we want to design where will be the best place to do the aquaculture, will be the best place to do the mangrove restoration, where will be the best place to do other stuff to support those spatial planning. So we are doing a comprehensive way of mangrove restoration. So we are not just doing a research there, but we are also doing creating an alternative livelihood, nurturing the idea of livelihood. So then the local people will have an alternative way of generating income other than the doing the aquaculture in itself. That's in East Kalimantan, and I know that YKAN is also working in South Sumatra in Oki, and then Riau, where they do also to develop and restoration and mangrove conservation.
Great. Thank you all the speakers for your insightful answers. So now we will be starting our Slido quiz. So if you wouldn't mind, please scan this QR on the screen to join so we can start our quiz. And the top 3 winners of the quiz will be getting some free YKAN merch. Okay, so keep on joining, guys, and we'll wait to start the quiz until everyone has joined. So this is the first question. So where do you guys think are the best areas for mangroves to live happily? But Aji, do you mind explaining more about the answer?
So it's as I told you earlier. Can you give me the option to the answers, please? That don't create much rain and are very dry. And then I didn't see it. Well, in general, the mangrove ecosystem isn't freeze or crop that are highly dependent on salinity. They cannot be outside without the impact of the salinity, but so they need to be interacting with the salinity on regular basis, like once in every 2 weeks or once in a week, like and it will, like many different species will have a different characteristic, but once they don't have interaction, so but once they don't have an interaction with the salinity and tide, it will, the mangrove ecosystem will not be able to thrive, and that's why the salinity component is really important for mangrove to grow and thrive in the long run.
Great, thank you for your explanation. Let's move on to the next question now. The next question is, what benefits do mangroves provide? Okay, so this one is pretty obvious. It was all of the above. So let's go to the next question. So what percentage of the world's mangroves are located in Indonesia? Yes, the correct answer was 23% of all the mangroves in the world. So the next question is, the mangrove conservation is a part of YKAN's what program? So it is actually both. So Aji, would you mind explaining why it is part of both?
Yeah. So even though the blue carbon program is largely focused or worked by ocean program in YKAN, but terrestrial program has also a blue carbon program in East Kalimantan. But yeah, so even though it's not, it's a small program that is organized by terrestrial program, but terrestrial program has also a work that is focused on blue carbon ecosystem in Kalimantan.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, mangrove forests can absorb how many times more carbon than tropical rainforests? Yes, so the correct answer was 3 to 5. Our next question is, what percent of total forestry in Indonesia is made up of mangroves? So this one was a hard one. The correct answer is actually 2%. Our next question is, what is the main cause of mangrove destruction? Yeah, so the correct answer was threat of land conversion of mangrove areas. Our last question is, which of these is not an animal you might expect to see in a mangrove forest? Okay, so everyone got this one right. Congratulations. Okay, congratulations for the top 3. You guys will be getting free YKAN merch. So you will be contacted soon. Okay, now, before we close our webinar, we want to open the discussion to everyone. So if there are any questions, please write in the chat or unmute and ask. So the first 3 people who ask questions will be also given free merchandise. So I see someone in the chat has already asked a question. So would one of the speakers like to comment?
Okay, I'll try to answer a question by Hendra. I'm from Bangkalis Island, Riau Province. As we know, the mangrove forests have important roles such as protection ecosystem, preventing abrasion, storing carbon, and so on. In Bangkalis, the island, the mangrove forest is production forests are not protected area. It means the mangrove forest will be deforested, such as by illegal logging as a material for making charcoal wood and blah blah blah. How about your opinion? I think, it's a question that is not easy to be addressed. I think because it will really depends on the spatial planning, and I think the best way for you to address this is to talk with your local leaders. If you think that the production forest, the local leaders, and then you can create a certain sort of local leaders and talk to them and making sure or ensuring maybe in the future that production forest can be allocated for mangrove restoration areas, and instead of collecting the illegal logging, the local people can generate other income, and by making sure that the mangrove ecosystem is still in intact condition. So yeah, create an alternative livelihood, talk to your local leaders, and then hopefully this in the long run can be redesigned as an area that is much more protected and the especially protected from the harmful livelihood way of doing or making money. And I think maybe Jeremy or other maybe Emily can also address this question if you guys have any opinion on that.
So Emily, we have a question for you in the chat.
Hi, yeah, I just saw the question in the chat. So I guess the most interesting thing, I guess, is not something that I've learned, but like my experience in just going to the last mangrove last week, because that is something that like I've never really done before. I never really gotten the experience to do. So I would say that is probably the coolest thing that YKAN has given me the opportunity to do, and I really appreciate that.
So do we have any more questions? The next one who asks a question also gets free merch. Okay, if there's no more questions, I think we can move on. So, but if you guys would like to support us further, please scan the QR on the screen and donate to YKAN's mangrove conservation program. So that would really mean a lot to YKAN and of course the mangroves. As we've learned, they're extremely important to Jakarta. Oh, sorry, we actually have another question. Would someone like to answer that?
So I think I can try to address the question. I think in a very early stage of mangrove to be able to grow, it should be by strong ocean wave. So I think the best way to address that is you want to make sure whether historically the area of where the seed is planted has a mangrove ecosystem before. And then so you want to understand the historical process, and then to talk around with the local community whether in the past the area of where this has been planted has the historical mangrove ecosystem. And I think it's also important to understand what will be the ideal species to grow there. So like some species probably cannot live in a certain sediment characteristic. So you want to learn from the local, or read the paper or read the data of how or what species that is most suitable for the location that you guys are planting. So making sure that it's also the hydrology, the hydrodynamic system is also important. So it's not just you go there and plant it, because it's not a waste, but we want to make sure that whenever you plant the seed, you want to also make sure that it is survive in the long run.
Okay, so now we have another question to Jemmy.
Okay, thank you, Nanda. So the question is, what is your expectations from these guys from basic program for the future, and why YKAN? I would answer why YKAN first, and because I've been working with YKAN, involved actively with YKAN for many years now, I think since 2016, 17. And previously, I also was involved with TNC, right? And the reason why is I believe in YKAN is because number one, YKAN, like that's why I like what Aji here is here with us, is they are very science-based. Yeah, so we always use science to see what's the issue with and also like and also using science to find the solutions for these like conservation issues. So they're science-based. Number two is also looking at from the landscape. Yeah, looking at from the landscape, seeing how solutions can be based on the landscape, because you can work on one area if you don't see it from a landscape. I think Aji can explain this much better than me. Then you will only have a partial solutions, but YKAN usually can try to find solutions from a landscape point of view. And the last one is collaborations, and I think I mentioned a bit about MERA and the Mangrove Ecosystem Restoration Alliance. This is an example of how a collaborative effort is very important to, again, to have very effective solutions. What we're looking for here is a solutions to the issue. So, and I think is the expectations. I don't have any expectations from our young stewards here in B.A.S.I's program. I like the name itself is like become a steward in conservations. What I just hope is that we just want to plant a seed. That's all. And I think this is just a start, a beginning, just a seed. But I believe that each of the basic participant here will have the responsibility to take how big this tree is gonna be. Yeah. So the road is is still a long way, but and becoming a steward, I'm still a steward now. So it is a lifelong process in becoming a steward in conservation, in sustainability. It is a lifelong process, and just to be able to take part in this whole journey, in this whole fight against this climate change, I think is definitely, I see it as a privilege, because again, these generations will be the generations to end the climate change. So we will take pride in doing this, and we will make sure that that we can do this. So yeah, that's my answers to that. I do see another questions. Questions: what ways can big corporations contribute to YKAN's initiative? I think one way is to learn more about what YKAN is doing. YKAN has so many programs, so many initiatives, terrestrials, oceans, and mangroves, forests, and so on. So there are many opportunities to take active role to support, and I always see that, for example, with the strategy that we take in Jarum, for example, we always try to tackle close to our home, yeah, in Central Java, for example, in Jarum case. So the reason why is because it's easier for us to see, to monitor. It's easier for us to know, okay, what is the issue. And then when we work together with YKAN to seek for solutions, for example, in our case with the one of the terrestrial project in Gunung Muria, for example, restorations in Gunung Muria. So it's easier for us to see, okay, these are the issue, these are the solutions. Let's work together, and this is our home. So so I will encourage other corporates to also do the same, to see what is the issues in their surrounding area, in their province here, and maybe in their districts, and then starting to take more active roles as part of the solutions, and work together with organizations like YKAN, who have experts like Aji here, with the scientists and all these experts to help to work on the solutions. And I think that's one way for big corporations to contribute, to take active role in these conservation efforts.
Thank you for that. I don't think there are any more questions. So now we are going to be taking a group picture. So would everyone please turn on their cameras? Oh wait, someone else asked a question. So it's to Emily, and the question is, what is your plan to encourage the young generation to take action for the mangrove?
So essentially, I guess it's kind of hard to kind of encourage everyone in Indonesia to be taking action for these mangroves, or taking action in general for the climate. So I think my first goal after this basic program is to kind of just continue to encourage the people in my school to be more sustainable, push for sustainability, push for better policies, and kind of work on that before going into a more general audience. So yeah.
Okay, so now we are all going to take a group picture. So everyone, please turn on your cameras so we can document this great webinar. Okay, we're waiting for everyone to turn on your cameras. Please be patient, sorry.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna take a picture right now. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for turning on your cameras for the picture. So we would also like to hear about your feedback on today's webinar. So we would appreciate it if you would scan this QR and complete the evaluation form. Anyways, thank you to all our speakers and volunteers at YKAN for helping make this event possible. We appreciate you all. We want to also thank all of you for listening to our webinar and helping us with our program. If you want to know more about our conservation programs and their impacts, please visit our website at www.ykan.or.id or follow our Instagram at ykan_id. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you.